What does it take to be a creative in the film industry today? Richard and I are going to share our experiences with you and hopefully give you a bit of insight if you are thinking of becoming one yourself. Stick around.
Hashtag Instagram. I just want to keep the young people interested.
Very good.
Yeah.
So no song today because we're not talking about a film, and that's weird anyway. But we thought we would just put this out there on Front Street. It's a thing that we obviously talk about, in relation to all the films we discuss on this channel, and we like to think it gives a certain perspective anyway, from behind the curtain kind of perspective on things, But as a result, like I've certainly found personally, a lot of you guys and a lot of other people come to me and ask me questions and ask me advice on generally becoming actors and that kind of thing, but also more broadly being creatives and being involved in the film industry at certain levels. So I thought it would be a great idea. Certainly, it's my I've now reached 10 years as an actor, as a professional actor. And I thought it would be a good time to kind of reflect on that and hopefully provide you, the viewer, with some value on that front. So
that's exciting.
You've obviously been a freelance cinematographer / videographer /
About 3 or 4 years, yeah. So I don't have the full decade behind me. There was a bit of crossover at first when I was doing my 9 to 5 and then chucking sickies or whatnot, or taking holiday days to go work. But I've been full time for about 3 years.
Yeah, which is amazing. It's a very
Yeah, I mean, there's always a side hustles, aren't there? I mean, my main income is from, so if you don't know, I'm like a commercial filmmaker, really. So I do editing, cinematography, general kind of camera operator, sound recording, kind of the lot. I do lots of corporate clients mostly, so I do exhibitions and shows. I've done some product stuff. So you don't really hear about what I've done. It's not very IMDb based because I'm doing it for clients and it goes on their social media and stuff, and it's not the kind of work upon which you really get credit. Because no one's gonna make an IMDb page for a 3-minute promo video I did about a haematology conference at Brighton 3 years ago. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, absolutely.
It's not that kind of work. So I'm working all the time. I've done the odd thing. I've got a few IMDb credits when I've crossed over into the real world.
Yes.
But yeah, it's been. I don't know, my line of work requires a lot of investment up front because I think there's an expectation that you're going to have your own kit. Not always, quite often when I freelance. Freelancer goes for me one of two ways. Either they're hiring me and my kit or they're just hiring me. And I turn up. But you can't go into it without having your own lights and sound and camera and whatnot.
You're expected to be a one-man band very much, I think, aren't you? Which is that kind of, you turn up, you shoot, you go away, you produce video, give it to it. It's that kind of thing, which I suppose the kind of gig economy has produced now. I mean, it's no longer the case that, okay, great, I'll just hire my army of crew who will come in and help. Nowadays it's just, because you can carry it all in a backpack and take it where you need to go. And so I suppose it's a good thing. In general, it means that, it's all yours end to end, which is great.
Yeah, it's got it's an upfront cost. But then it's an investment. It pays. I think everything I've got pays for itself. For example, I have to pay every month for Adobe Premiere, Adobe Suite, really. But that, as a bottom line, that pays for itself every single month since I've got it, because it's like 30 quid and you get the whole Creative Suite.
That's great, yeah.
And it updates itself and blah blah blah. Not sponsored by Adobe, but that pays for itself at a baseline. Yes, if you're interested, Adobe. You use our software badly to make your show. That, for example, is something before you've even started. Then I have Envato, an account with Envato. So these are my monthly outgoings. So I've got to have that's for stock elements and stuff. So it's my choice of provider. So that's another one on top. And then really a portion of your phone bill goes towards your work, your electric, your heating if you're working from home. You've got to pay your insurance. You've got to have liability insurance. Sometimes employers insurance. You've got to have all that. So you have monthly outgoings, and then that's on top of all the kit you've invested in.
Which is definitely, that's something like to bring up is that it's not taught enough, I don't think, at like film school or drama school, which is that you have to learn the the mechanics of being a business, and that very much, managing that and managing tax returns and managing all that, like the marketing of your business, all of that stuff.
It's our most fun episode yet.
Yeah.
Got to tax is marketing.
Richard's big envelope.
Yes.
But you do need an Allen's big envelope, and you need to be on top of all that stuff. And it's very, when you're starting out the gate as well, you won't have the money to pay an accountant. You won't have the money to, employ people. So it's all down to you. And I've known actors who've gone, I don't need to do a tax return. I didn't earn enough money. And it's like, yes, but you're earning money.
You are earning money. Point. You made money.
Yeah.
You need to have a tax return.
Indeed. I believe it's like you can make up to like $1,000 and they won't be bothered. But I think, anyway,
right.
Whatever it is. I'm not a financial advisor, so please don't take that. But these are all things that you have to consider. I think there's two ways to look at this. One could say it's an easier decision to make when you're young. I made the decision when I was 25, I think.
I wish I had.
Right.
I regret not doing it sooner.
The only thing I'll say about that is that when you are younger, you don't know these things. So it is trial and error. And I do think like when you've had a bit more experience under your belt. I mean, I had worked for companies. I had spent, after university, spent 3 years playing in bands. That was my creative outlet. So I was learning about how to start bands as businesses and market them and stuff and all that. But I was also working a 9 to 5, and when I made the leap into acting, I started doing evening classes and stuff, and I segued into it kind of from having a main career. But I did ultimately, 2010, jump in with both feet and go, that's it, I'm on my own now, and kind of had to make my way through it. And side hustles, I mean, you touched on them there, side hustles are an important part of it. I've had every job, I think, every cliche job that an actor's supposed to have under the sun, and I still have to go back to them now. So I used to think of it, I would attain certain jobs, I would do certain things and think that it would act like some sort of ratchet pin that would come in and stop me falling back. That's not how it works at all. Like, that is not how it works. Even when I've been paid well for something, it's like, but there's no guarantee. That's not you're not going to get that every month now from here to eternity. And
so for me, like, this time of year is a bit slow, so I temp. So I go sit on reception in certain places, for example, for sort of £12 an hour, which, keeps me ticking over. Also, sometimes if you make a bit of wedge, you go, well, do I just waff that on rent and cheeseburgers, or do I buy some gear with that, make the equivalent money back through temping or side jobs, and spend that on rent and cheeseburgers?
He means gear, like...
Oh yeah, not like, we need some fucking gear. No, gear. My God. I don't want to condemn myself.
Or do I get gear?
I'm going to say kit.
Do I shoot up? Or do I eat hamburgers? Kit. Well, yeah, do you expand your business? Which I think you've made absolutely the right choices with the things you've done, is that you've upgraded your kit.
I keep buying. Like I did a decent bit of wedge like end of last year, and it all went back into the business. Like all went back. So I'm skint again, but now I've got a nicer camera and so forth.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, then you're increasing your offering. What you can do, the different functionalities and stuff. You increase your offering, and then you can put that in your show reel, and you can whatever.
And people will find these, and there's always, this is the frustrating thing about the film industry especially, is there are always exceptions to the rule at the highest echelons that you can point to and that disprove what I'm about to say, but I am talking in generalities, and that's where you'll have to exist probably. So take that with a pinch of salt, but generally speaking, you have to be the best of the best to get the job, because there's so few jobs. And it's such an oversupply of, especially actors. Everyone wants to do it, but in order to get the job, generally speaking, and again, there are exceptions, but you will have to be the best for it. And especially at a point when you're not famous. I still to this day, I temp, I do freelance copywriting on the side. I bump into people who don't expect to find me in a pub or something, working behind a bar. And they'll go like, I had a conversation, usually goes like this, blah, 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 EastEnders, blah, 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 blah. I'm like, I've done EastEnders, yeah, I had a recurring character on it. What, as an extra? No, as a credited character. So why don't you look me up? how did you get into that then? Blah, 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 blah. And then I'll start telling them what I've done. I'll show them my IMDb, and it's like this question. It's like, because the public, and this is the thing you'll face as well, is the public's perception of what you do. It's that 4-panel thing that everyone puts on Facebook. What people think I do, what my mum thinks I do, and but it is true. It's like a constant resetting of expectations. I've been working behind a bar when I had Erica came out. I had a film you could buy on DVD in the supermarket across the way, and what was the other thing? I can't remember. Tons of stuff. And it's like, I was on TV in an advert in the said pub. Still working there because I have to pay the bills. You know, these things don't pay their bills, so you have to be like, you have to live off humble pie. I think when you're, you know, and that goes all the way up to, you can still be successful. I have a good CV, I have credit, but I'm just not famous. And I think in your case, the great thing about what you do is you can do all these things that are still doing your job and do them well and producing content.
Yeah, I mean, I do get, like I say, I do a freelance camera up and stuff. That's really good because it's not necessarily building my business, but I can just turn up at a place, someone gives me their branded gear, and then they just put a camera in my hand. Plus, if you do freelance for other people, you get to use gear that's quite a bit above your pay grade, and it's a great sort of training. It's like gear fucking a really great horse.
Sorry,
I go freelance for my friend Scott's company a fair old bit, and I hire him in sometimes as well when I need extra hand. But I get to use like Rhino slider, Canon C300. He just bought the Canon Cine lenses that we used for a job last week, which I would otherwise not be able to get my hands on.
Yeah.
So I can then say, by freelancing for others, you can then say that you've used this gear and you're then proficient or, you know, adept at that stuff.
Right, of course, yeah.
I first used a Blackmagic kind of video mixing rig and everything through my work at Computing History, for example. So I was able to do, it was essentially live vision mixing interviews and stuff, which is outside my experience, and I learned to do it there. Yeah. And again, when I go and do stuff, for example, with someone such as Scott, I'm going to use gear above my pay grade. Right. Which is good. And networking as well, and what I do is really important, because if you network with people, you can have kit shares and kit loans and stuff like that. So I know a few different kind of indie filmmakers as well, so I can go and dabble with them. And I've done the kind of cinematography and stuff on little shorts and things. I've done a bit of acting of usually wordlessly and stuff for a laugh, but then I'm also doing kind of lights and camera and stuff. Right. My friend Mahiba's, it looks like he's going to get some funding from the BFI. Cool. Because he just down in Brighton just fucking grafts all the time, making shorts, flinging stuff out. So, you know, you kind of build your network and stuff. You get to use stuff you wouldn't otherwise get to use, which is good. Then you know what. Another thing as well is like, it's such a, when you invest in kit, you're at a real risk of like, you don't want to buy something and it's a duffer, it's not for you. So you want to get your hands on it. So I just got this 6K Blackmagic. Not shooting this in 6K, that'd be mad. But the form factor is the same as a 4K, and I got offered some camera up before Christmas using that rig. Right. And by getting my hands on it and using it, I was able to make the decision that, I'm going to drop $2,500 on this one. Yeah. For me, and I wouldn't have had that otherwise. I tried to go to a certain chain of photography shops in London, and the customer service was really bad, which was deeply disappointing. But that's who I ended up buying the camera off of anyway, because they're the only stockist in the UK, so that's a shitter. But there you go.
I think you touched on something there that's really important, and something I would advise to any of you who are either looking to get into the filmmaking or the acting. Well, the acting is to find ways to add value to what you do, and that's like what you said about like find ways to work with kit that you're not au fait with, so you can say find ways to just be of value to whoever you're going to go out to. And as an actor starting out, it's very difficult because you're not famous, you don't have anything to bring, you haven't got credits, but you can find like places where you are of value. In my first year was like, I am just going to seize every bit of work I can get my hands on. I won't be paid. I understand that because I have to be, that's how I'm of value. I'm competent, I'm good, I'm all the things, and I'm going to do it for free, and that's awful, but I have to do it. And so I did student films, short films. Kenneth, which is you can watch on YouTube or Amazon Prime right now, is a film I made in that first year, nearly 10 years ago. Feature film, no one was paid on it. It was very, very low budget, but it was a chance to be a lead role in a feature film, and it went places and it did okay, and I won an award for it, so that's good. But I did something like 15, 16 films in a year, because I've got to work. And that's how you add value. And then once you've got that, then you've got a load of credits. Then you've actually done a load of work. You can start being of value to more people, and then there's agents, and then so on and so forth. So it's the snowball that starts with like a single snowflake.
It's very important not to fall into the trap of for exposure. For exposure, freebies and for exposure are very difficult because you have to build a portfolio. And I think it's very disingenuous to go to someone with nothing in your back pocket and say, I'm going to film your event for you. That you need to have something to build on. Yeah. So I did a few freebies at the start, and then I always did it conditionally, saying to the person that I'm doing this because I want to get paid for it down the line. Because if you get a reputation of the person who does stuff for free, before you know it, you're going to be doing their cousin Karen's wedding for hundreds of, a couple of grand's worth of work for free, or whatever. And also, they've started a business or they've done this, and they'll all start calling you, expecting it for nothing because you did it for Pete and Keith or whatever.
It's like our wedding video.
Like his wedding video.
No, I feel bad.
I feel bad because I haven't finished it.
You get what you pay for. But that ties into the whole thing of understanding and keeping track of your value as well. Is that yes, at the outset, but once you've accrued those credits, you do become of value. And it's at that point, that's a very hard point. And there was a line in the sand I drew and was aware of drawing at the kind of 1 year mark, which is to say, right, that's it, I don't work for free anymore. Yeah. And that's a hard thing to do because you'll still have the offers coming in and you'll be like, oh yeah, but I could be working.
And you'll also find that, I don't know how it works with acting, but in my line of work, because of the nature of the business, people are very cagey about sharing how much they charge. And as someone in my line of work, I know why that is, because you're in competition with each other. Yeah. And quite often you do get the clients who are just looking for the cheapest quote. It's part of the game, not denigrating those clients, because I still work for them, but they're not necessarily as bothered about the quality so much as they've got a budget to go to. Sure. So if one person says one thing, one says another. So I know someone who I quoted in competition against another outfit, and I was saying I can do this with 2 or 3 people, which we ended up doing. They'd quoted for a food stylist, a producer, a director, 2 runners, all this kit, and it was real overkill, but it would have got different results. Yeah. And I was saying, well, look, I don't think that's necessary. I won that contract with saying I don't really think that's necessary. I think it's a bit overkill. I mean, it's very unless and that leads into another thing. I would never, ever, ever I would never negatively discuss other people in my field of work. Right. Yeah. It's viewed as deeply unprofessional.
Nor would I.
And it is. It's a horribly unprofessional thing to do. To go out and slagging off other people in your field is deeply unprofessional. And sometimes you see people do that, and you don't want to drama around your name of your business. That's just absolutely just not the thing to do.
It's a line that we skirt sometimes. I think on Valverde. I've always been very clear of I don't review new films generally. There's been a few where we have, but for that very reason. And I know it can be just seen as punching up, but actually, if this is where you want to work, you shouldn't be out there kind of, for whatever reason. You can discuss things in the context of hindsight and kind of where things may have gone wrong and that kind of thing. That's okay, but to sort of be these persons.
I need to separate what I do on YouTube from my work. Yeah. Because I definitely separate from YouTube, and I'm sorry about that, but I would never go after other professional life, because this is not my professional life really. I mean, we do make a little bit of money off of this, as you probably know, with Patreon stuff. Not a lot, but I do keep my professional and kind of YouTube lives as separate.
Yeah, absolutely. I suppose what I hope to do with this is to kind of I want to kind of open doors for people in the sense of because I know what it's like starting out, certainly as an actor, is you have this sense of what you think it is and where you want to be at, and you're I'm gonna, you're striding down London town, I'm, going to the big, no, but it is sorry. It is the kind of the big dreams, the big idea, all this kind of stuff, and then reality bites, and I think it's about kind of helping people understand kind of what is expected of them, who are they aiming at. I mean, that's another thing, is understand your value, but understand your value, who you need to be of value to, and that then teaches you kind of what value you need to provide. In my line of work, it's about appealing to middlemen a lot of the time, certainly out the gate, because you don't know anyone, so it's trying to get an agent, trying to appeal to casting directors, trying to be of value to them. One thing I'll say, one piece of advice I'll say to you, if you are a new actor, is there's one thing of value is to be discoverable. So I would always say to people, go out, spend a year or however long it takes to get a bunch of just stuff under your belt of working on camera and get all that experience and try and get as much. You'll have to kiss a bunch of frogs, but there will be there'll be enough there to get some footage together that you can show yourself off. And then you want to hit up like the big casting directors and agents, not because you'll necessarily get anywhere with them, but you might find one. I had, and I won't name names, but I had one casting director who did push me around, and I got seen by a lot of major casting directors. And at the time I was too green to kind of appreciate it really, but people I'd probably kill for a chance to get in there with now. And the thing at the moment is I have an agent, I'm known by a lot of people in the industry, but I'm not famous, so that kind of closes doors for me rather than being, if I'm new and fresh-faced and discoverable. So that's one thing, don't underestimate that. And I think when you're going to take your first poke at kind of getting into the professional spheres of the industry, do so from a very strong position if you can. Things like Spotlight is another thing. So it factors into the things you talk about, like subscription charges each month, that kind of stuff. Headshots, show reels, sometimes paying people to shoot stuff for you if you've not got anything, and then stuff like Spotlight is something you have to be on as an actor, because otherwise you just won't get anywhere, because that's where all the jobs are posted. That's like the repository of actors, and there's some hoops you have to jump through. I think if you've graduated from certain drama schools, you will get access to that. Or if you've got, I don't know what the credits are now, but I think when I joined you had to have 4 professional credits, I think. Okay. Which weren't like, I don't remember if I had to, did I have to prove it? I don't even know if I had to prove it. I just had to say what it was and who made them and that kind of thing. So I'm not suggesting you make that up, don't, because that's a stupid thing to do. But I had an offer of an agent, I think, at the time, which helped as well. But yeah, it seems like a giant hurdle when you're underneath it, but once you're over it, it's not. And then you have to pay your subscription, which is about 160 quid a year to Spotlight. Then there's tons of other resources and stuff you can be on, networking resources that you have to pay for and that kind of thing. So it's about picking through it and kind of being sensible as well. And I would say don't listen to the herd mentality that says, I paid $4,000 to go to LA. This has happened before. I've been to the thing called the Actors Expo, which did have merit and was worth doing, but there are a lot of companies out there that will prey upon your dreams and aspirations.
So those, people who make you pay 100 quid up front to go to an audition or whatever, and it's not even really an audition. I had those photo shoot things as well.
There was a company there that was charging, I think it was $4,000 to go to LA to meet with top casting directors, and I said, how many people do you take out on these things? And they were like, we usually do about 10 to 14 people at a time. And I was like, okay, so what's the audition process then? And they were like, there isn't one. And I went, right, so the only criteria you place on me is I have to have a spare $4,000. What's the casting director at the other end of that process? What's in it for them? If they're a top casting director, they don't need the money. So why are they? Surely they're going, this is a great way to have pre-vetted talent, like funneled my way.
Got a feeling that person's credentials as a casting director are pretty slender.
There you go. And it didn't take much for me to kind of pick it apart. I mean,
there are lots of things like that about people trying to. I've seen the same with kind of camera courses and stuff, and it's sort of like they're charging some ridiculous amount through the roof, and it's not a lot better than what you could learn yourself from YouTube or Skillshare or whatever. There's a lot of kind of scalping that goes on, I think.
Grifting.
Grifting.
I'm afraid. I mean, because and really, when you boil it down to it, it's like, do you want a non-guaranteed? Do you want to pay essentially for non-guaranteed fast tracking? Come on in, and it's like,
climb on, guys.
Yeah, and it's and unfortunately, a lot of actors think, oh God, I want that. There's a lot of this kind of herd mentality that goes on, and I understand it. I do understand it. You probably feel desperate to a certain degree, and it is tough. It is tough, and don't get me wrong, I get pangs of that every now and again, because it does. I think you have to make peace as well with the fact that you won't just work all the time, and it's not all sunshines and rainbows, and and then when you actually do the work, it's hard work. You have to graft like majorly, and not for much financial reward. Even if you do a job and they pay you $20,000 or something, it's still not. in the grand scheme of things, it's not. It doesn't mean that you're a millionaire.
Well, that's the thing when you get big hits of money like that, they call it famine and feast, don't they?
Yeah.
It's kind of like you've got a bit of wedge, but like in a 9 to 5, you get a smaller amount of money guaranteed every month. When you freelance, you get a large amount of money every now and then.
Yeah.
If you're doing well.
Yeah.
And then other times nothing for ages and whatever, so it's not necessarily going to propel you through the stratosphere. Because it's nice. And again, like in my case, I'll quite often take that money, over the last few years, invest it back and then go and sit on a reception at whichever place I happen to be on reception this week, or doing whatever rando. I work as a tour guide as well. I don't know who knows that, but I do freelance tour guiding, which might, if you ever see me walk around like Bath or Brighton or York, that is me with a group of foreign students
Holding a book in the air or whatever.
I just shout. I've got a great teacher voice.
Fair enough.
I do that from time to time, but I can't remember what my point is. I'm kind of rambling at the moment.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's all part of the graft. And I think as well, like that, definitely have a side hustle that pays your bills, because you need to lock that in. You don't want to be taking jobs out of desperation. I think that's important. You need to approach everything that any offer you have needs to be considered. It cannot be from a point of desperation, because you won't make good choices like that. The other thing that I wanted to talk about is in relation to kind of competition and the people around you you'll meet. It's very common for actors, especially, to have like a nemesis, like Maggie's monobrow baby.
Yeah, the baby.
Yeah, so it's who you'll be friends with at the start because you'll meet on a set somewhere, and then you'll be friends on Facebook, and then they'll start posting how much work they're doing and you're doing nothing, and you'll be like, fuck her, Don't allow yourself to get into that position. Be very specific about what success means to you, and then just follow that. And if other people appear to be being successful, this is the great, the social media is a shitter, even though I know we're on it right now, but it's really bad psychologically to be sat there. I mean, what you really need to do is get to a point of genuine gratitude and goodwill for those people. You need to be able to sit there and go, good for them, or ignore it, basically. But be as laser focused as you can be on what it is you're trying to achieve. I think because it's very easy to start thinking, approaching everything from a position of lack when you're looking at, oh my God, all these people are working. Why aren't I working? Oh, it must be that everything's against me. And then it's like, yeah, and then you call it, And I say this as someone who's done that. Like, I'm not like this guru who knows.
Neither of us really know what we're talking about.
Well, it's trial and error. I mean, this is 10 years of this shit for me. It's like
this shit.
It's that thing of like every now and again I get like big life events happen, like I get married or I buy a house with my wife, and I start going, shit, should I get a proper job?
Right.
Can I keep doing this? And my brain starts telling me, yes, regular money. How happy would I be with this regular cash that comes in? And it's like, yeah, but you're going to have to lock yourself in a office prison for the rest of the time. You know what I mean?
I don't miss it. I prefer the hustle. I'd rather take my chances.
Me too.
I hate the fucking did you see it was non-uniform day, but Steve didn't bother. He could have put £5 into current relief box, but he didn't. He just turned up wearing his normal clothes. What's up with that? God, what? Shut up.
Yeah.
Shut up. It's like, oh, well, Sarah bought in cupcakes on Friday, but you ate 2 and everyone else had 1, so you owe Sarah 72p. It's all this trivial, I hate trivial office work shit. And I'd rather take my chances. When I first started doing this and I was proper brassic, like well poor, I'd be sat there eating like value sausages off of white bread, just being like, I'm all right with this. This is better than what I just left.
Yeah, I think... Yeah, I mean, I agree. I as well, I think it's that thing of always having that hope, knowing that things can turn around in a phone call or an email or whatever like that. Like, we're still poised for something to drop at any time, and it does drop, and they do happen, and it's often not when you're expecting it, but it does happen.
The way to make that happen is just, it's going to sound really dumb, just be good. Like, I bend over. When I was going out with shit kit, like when I first started and I had a really basic DSLR and lights, it wasn't, I couldn't compete with someone who had at the time, say, like a A7 Mark III or like whatever. I couldn't compete. So what I offered because I come from a customer service background, I offered just exceptional customer service, bent over backwards. I sat up all night editing stuff. Like I've had someone say they wanted something for a show at 7 o'clock the next morning, and they only gave me the brief on the night before,
right.
And I've stayed up all night, and they've seen on the email I've sent that it went at 4 a.m. or whatever, and they know, and then they'll come back to you and they'll recommend you.
Yeah.
Because it's all well and good to think you're not Stanley Kubrick, right? None of us are. And at the end of the day, you're making, in my world, you make like commercial film. You're providing customers, you need to be a good point of contact, you need to be an affable human being, you need to be a humble human being, and you need to be prepared to fucking graft and work hard, because then people will come back to you and they'll tell your friends. And that's when you do a good job, then they'll come back to you.
Yeah.
So I just did one. I did a week-long one, and last year, really great job. They loved the outcome, but I knew for a fact that the next year the same event's taking place in China, and they're hiring local from their organisation in China. So I don't get that. There's nothing I could have done to have won that job for the next year. Doesn't make a difference. I still did the best job I possibly could, because you get good show reel out of it for a start. Yeah. And secondly, if they need to recommend someone, they recommend you.
Yeah. Yeah, so, don't lose sight of that gratitude for work. And I made that mistake in my 20s. I would get a job that would appear to be the next level up, and there's that temptation to be like, cock of the walk, that's it. I can be an actor now. I can start throwing my weight around. Never be like that. Never, ever, ever be like that, because I've then gone on to bigger and better things. I've worked on massive film sets, and I've worked on tiny films, and even now that if something's right for me and I like it and I want to go work on it, I'm discerning, but I still will go work on stuff that is below my, I won't say pay grade, because what is that? But you know what I mean, like things that may seem like a step backwards, but it's not, and it's being grateful, because I think that gets you through an awful lot of stuff as well. Like we'll hopefully get Mark Price on to talk about his his experiences as a director, because I'd like to make this kind of a irregular series of stuff where we kind of hopefully provide some value on this sort of behind the curtain stuff. But Mark is a good friend, and I've made a film with him called A Fistful of Lead that's out there now. You were
that was a Zombie and Night Shooters.
Zombie and Night Shooters, which is a great film as well, in his his catalogue of stuff. And he's someone who I remember lying in a bunch of freezing cold mud, covered in fake blood and crap, for days on end in a Welsh mine, getting sick as a dog, and having to keep grafting and grafting, being horribly uncomfortable, but being grateful for it and not complaining and just getting on with it. And now it's very easy if you're about to set out on your journey and you're like, oh yeah, I'll do that, I'll do anything. Yeah, but 5 years later, 10 years later, you're still going to be doing it. You're still going to be grateful for the discomfort and the thing, because it doesn't really matter what you're on. You still have to put up with a level of that. It doesn't. You might have a trailer and someone with hot water bowls off camera waiting for you. But you're still going to have to do it. You're still going to have to put the graft in and be prepared to sort of sacrifice comfort or temporary comfort and that kind of thing. That I don't think ever gets any different. And I've been around top filmmakers. I can't say for certain, but I'm pretty sure that Roger Deakins has to do some backbreak. He has to get up at the crack of dawn, get on set, start hauling things around. Don't get me wrong, he has a crew to do a lot of it, but he still has to do the work, man. And he does, and the results are there. And it's like, and I do think once you get to that level, it's like you've got to maintain an awful lot of stuff. It's not like, I think there's, and I don't know about with you, but I think there's a lot of end goal mentality, like magic, silver bullet, like I just need to get that one thing, because people say it to you all the time. People say it to me all the time, oh, you just need that big break, don't you? Why don't you get on EastEnders? Which is great, and I love EastEnders, and don't get me wrong, but I've done it, and it's not it's that silver bullet that'll just end all your problems in one hit, and then you'll just be this high flying, like everything from there on will be plain sailing and easy, and it won't. You'll still have to work, like if you're going to work on a multi-million-dollar production, you've got to be worth millions of dollars. Like you can't go like, oh, he made, Robert Downey Jr. made $50 million for Iron Man. I could do that. It's like, could you? Yeah. Could you? Could you still be cool? Like he's a very cool person who does his own thing and he's very much his own person. But he's got the weight of Disney pushing down on him, going like, be this, be that, be this, blah, 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 blah. And like, could you stand up to all that? Could you still be, could you be an incredible artist under those conditions and still deliver, something that someone's going to invest hundreds of millions of dollars in.
That's what I like about my thing is that I'm invisible.
Whoa.
People don't put the same pressure on you when you're behind the camera.
I don't know though. I mean, cinematographers are becoming
now. Yeah, but right now it's not an issue for me.
Fair enough.
Right now it's not an issue for me.
Yeah.
So I can just sort of exist, sort of be invisible. I will say this much weirdly, like two things that the things that can make you invisible in the right place are a high vis and a helmet.
Yes.
And or a camera.
Yeah.
Because once you're in an event, and I've been in some really high profile events and stuff, like not that I'm some big shot, but you end up covering, like I did stuff at Crufts, for example. I've done a few different things. And once you've got a camera, you become at worst a nuisance and at best invisible, and people just ignore you, which is brilliant because you just go anywhere.
Yeah.
And it's sort of like that thing you put on a high vis and just walk in. And there's one event that got, when I shoot at the, well, I think it's coming down, but I shoot at the Hammersmith Olympia quite a lot. I shoot at the NEC and at the XL. And the Olympia got a real bug up their arse about us. They got super health and safety on us once. So we had to wear hard hats and jackets all the time, whatever. But I just, once I was in the event, I just went wherever I liked and no one challenged me.
It's like a clipboard. Brilliant. If you've got a clipboard, you can walk in anyway.
Just walk in. I don't know where I'm going with this, but like there's this great thing of just being invisible as well.
That brings up a very good point. Actually, that is, and certainly from an acting standpoint.
Where are we at? 36 minutes.
Oh yeah, we'll wrap up shortly. But I think don't. It's very tempting from the outset of to consider yourself a nobody and to think that time spent where you're not Frank Rush or you don't have an agent or you're not visible in a certain area that you want to be visible in has no value. And actually, it's a great time to try things. I get asked a lot, like whether or not people should do extra work and background work. The official line is no. The official line is you don't want to be doing background work because the industry frowns on it if you're a serious actor, and there's all sorts of things that go along with it. My advice to you would be do it, go earn some money, being on a set, see what the set's like. You effectively get to be an actor for yourself for the day, even if your action is mill around in the background and you have you can come up with a character, you can come up with motivations for work, even if it's just walk from point A to point B, doesn't matter. Like you can still do the work, it's a way of being on a set and seeing what a set is like, seeing what the pressure's like, but don't go on there and start flashing headshots around and saying you're an actor and trying to think that it's a leg up, because it isn't. That's going to just piss people off. Yeah, it is. And it's not to say that it shouldn't be that way, or it should be that way. You know what I mean? It would be nice if that was where you started and then you climbed up and you started getting speaking roles and all that kind of thing. It would be nice if that were the case. I think it's primarily because they opened the doors to background work to anyone, decades ago, that it means that you're in there with a lot of people who aren't actors, who are just sort of there to look at celebrities and be on film sets and talk about how wonderful they are. And it's like, that's why I think it's not to do it down, because obviously background is vital to stuff. You need them. They do, and the good ones are fantastic. So that's not. Please don't see that as a bashing of extras. And I think there's value to be had from it. And it's a great time as well when you don't have an agent, when you don't have representation, and you're sort of not known to any of the casting directors. That's a great time to sort of be doing that kind of thing, because you get paid, and you can get paid quite well sometimes, and you're going to get to soak up an atmosphere on a set that you're not going to get to be on for a long time. So it's kind of like, that's a great way to kind of just be around it all. And you can chat to crew, and you can tell them kind of what you're doing and stuff. That's fine, but don't go around screaming and shouting about it, is what I would say on that.
I think there's a lot to be said. Again, Duncan and I talk about actually quite different things here, I suppose, but there's a lot to be said for just, because it's good just to be there to see how it works. Because I did some prop work on a Grinda Shah film 2 years ago, and I just took it. I was like, yeah, that sounds cool. It was because of my computer knowledge that I was there, and it's just to be on a big set was fun. I mean, I got paid and everything, of course I did, and I was doing something I love. But like, part of it's just being there and observing it. Same in my situation. If someone, I'm not beneath. If someone wants to bung me a few quid just to come and hold the boom mic for a couple of hours, I'll do it. If I'm not doing anything else, I'll do it, because you're going to network with those people and make, get your name in front of them and chat to them about what they're doing and stuff. And particularly if you're starting out, if someone wants to give you like £10 an hour just to carry the bags, I'd take it, because you're getting experience and you're seeing what that person's about and what they're doing and how their day goes and everything else. So, I definitely, nothing should be beneath you, really. Don't get me wrong. If you've been in it for a long time and things are going well, great. But don't forget that there's a bottom line somewhere that still exists.
Yeah, and networking is vital as well. I'm going to sum up the networking thusly. I got very sick of people saying, I had recent times when someone says, "How did you get that job?" or "How did that happen?" I'm like, "Well, I auditioned for it, but I knew the producer or I knew the this or the." They go, "Oh, that's not what you know; it's who you know." I hate that phrase. And this industry, that is used as a dismissive term to say you didn't get this on your own merit, or it's nepotism, or it's that kind of thing. You build up people you know through working and doing hard work and coming up together. So you help each other up. It's how it should be anyway. I'm stealing this from another actor, I think. I can't remember the podcast I heard this on. It's not what you know, who you know. It's who knows you. Keyword knows. So you might have met with certain people before, but do they know you? Because if they know you, they will think of you, and if they think of you, they may call you in for stuff. And I'm sure that's true in your world as well, which is that like, who knows you, and that you can get to by going out and just doing those kinds of things. I mean, Scott knows you, right?
Yeah.
So
and when I work, I have my company logo on my shirt.
Yeah.
So, and my website on the back. So even if people don't want to come, I've had people who didn't want to come and talk to me because they're too busy or whatever. They've taken a note of my name, Googled it, or Googled it, and found me.
Yeah.
So just being visible.
Yeah.
Really important. And again, like being personable and being helpful on site, as I call it, because you'd be on set. Well, I've done stuff on sets, but like for me, I'm on site.
Sure.
Or on location. Like being helpful and useful and visible.
Yeah. Invisible at the same time.
And invisible. There is something I do quite like to do at certain events is what I call putting on a show, which is...
It's where he takes his cock out.
And windmill.
Yeah.
It's where I bring kit that I think people want to see rather than I actually need.
Yeah.
The great one for putting on a show is bringing a matte box.
Right.
If you bring a matte box and a clapperboard, and because I borrowed, when I had mashed up leg, I borrowed Duncan a couple of times. He came out and did a few jobs with me because I needed help because I couldn't walk. And one of those days was a big award show for a financial company that I work for in London. And I decided that was a good let's put on a show day. So we put up big boom mic, we put up the matte box, like it was way extra.
Yeah.
It was more than we needed, and most of it was sat there not really being used, but it looked good.
Yeah.
And lo and behold, quite a lot of people, normally where it would just be my DSLR on a, and that's not, that part of it was dressing up DSLR, but normally it would just be a DSLR on a tripod. Nobody give a crap. But that day we had a lot of kind of like, are you a film crew? Like, what's going on here? And we even there was another crew there from another company, and the young lad who was working for them come to us and kind of went, "Are you a production company? What are you doing?" It's kind of like, "Yeah, man, we're this, we're that."
Yeah.
So, I mean, I know it sounds a little bit disingenuous, but like putting on a show, there is really something to be said for it.
It's knowing your audience. I mean, I guess it all comes back to that. It's knowing who you are creating value for ultimately. And that is a way of creating value. That's a way of saying, look, how much value we're adding to this thing right now. Like, and yeah, knowing where you are. I mean, you're very canny with stuff like that. And it's, I think that's really important. It's harder perhaps in my line of work in that you spend a lot of time isolated and not actually around the people in person. So you have to kind of think of ways to be visible that add value or that showcase some form of value to them. And it can be quite soul crushing sending out email after email after email to casting directors and hearing nothing back. But that's the job. And that's something else, it's like work on your business, work on what you do, how you get through to people, how you communicate, because that is ultimately going to be...
That's vital.
Yeah, how you get in the room, and then be prepared when you get in the room, because that's another thing, I'm sure that so many people are fed up of time wasters who say, yeah, I'm the best, and then when they're, I've heard so many stories, I won't name names, but I know of very many examples of people who've talked the talk, quote unquote, and then been given an incredible life-changing opportunity and cocked it up. So yeah, there you go. I'm not implying Pierce Brosnan at all, because he didn't cock it up.
He didn't cock that one up.
Very well respected actor.
Yeah, there you go.
I think that'll do it for now.
That'll do, Pig.
That'll do. I hope that was interesting and helped anyone out there. And please, obviously do comment below if you're a creative or you're thinking of becoming a creative, whether that's an actor, a director, producer, cinematographer, whatever it is. Bung it in the comments, please, because we'd love to hear it. And anything you'd like us to discuss on the topic. That was a kind of broader one on what it's like, but maybe what set etiquette is or whatever.
In the industry, we call it setiquette. Nobody does that.
We love a portmanteau in the industry.
We do.
So yes, please check us out on the usual social medias, the Twitters, the Facebooks, the Patreon.
Habbo Hotel, Bebo, GeoCities.
MySpace. And we will see you again very, very soon.
Support your 7th or 8th favourite YouTube channel by buying crap, tat, junk, hogwash and filth at redbubble.com/people/Val Verde Shop.